वेलकम टू माय चैनल। आज हम रेस्ट की कुछ क्विज़ करेंगे। तो सबसे पहले हमारा क्विज़ है, इज़ रेस्ट अ प्रोटोकॉल लाइक एचटीटीपी? ऑप्शन बी इसका आंसर है नो, रेस्ट इज़ एन आर्किटेक्चरल स्टाइल। एक्सप्लेनेशन, रेस्ट इज़ नॉट अ प्रोटोकॉल, प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज और सॉफ्टवेयर टूल. It's an architectural style, a set of design principles and constraints. For building web services, REST typically uses HTTP as its underlying protocol. What is a resource in REST? Option B, any information or entity that can be named and addressed. Explanation, in REST, a resource is any information or entity that can be named and addressed. Examples include users, products, orders, documents, images, or any piece of data that can be identified by URI. What is a representation in REST? Option B, a copy or snapshot of a resource's state. Explanation, a representation is a copy or snapshot of a resource's state at a particular time when a client requests a resource. The server sends back a representation like JSON or XML of that resource's current state. Which HTTP method is used to create a new resource in REST? Option B. The post method is used to create a new resource. When you send a post request, you are asking the server to create a new resource based on the data you provide in the request body. Which HTTP status code indicates that a resource was not found? Option C, 404. HTTP status code 404 means not found. The server could not find the requested resource. This is a common error when a URI does not exist or the resource has been moved or deleted. What does idempotent mean in REST? Option B, making the same request multiple times has the same effect as making it once. Explanation, idempotent means that making the same request multiple times has the same effect as making it once. For example, deleting a resource times result in the same state. The resource is deleted. Which HTTP methods are typically idempotent? Option B, get, put, and delete. Explanation, get, put, and delete are typically idempotent. Get reads data, no side effect. Put replaces a resource, same result each time, and delete remove resources still deleted after multiple requests. Post is generally not idempotent. What is the most common data format used in REST APIs? Option B, JSON. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, is the most common data format used in REST APIs. It's lightweight, easy to read and write, and is supported by virtually all programming languages and platforms. What is a good URI design for a REST API that manages users Option C, slash users or slash users slash ID. Explanation: good REST URI design uses nouns for resources and HTTP methods for action, slash users for the collection, and slash users slash curly brackets ID for individual users is a clean, RESTful design that follows best practices. What does cacheable mean in REST? Option A, responses can be stored and reused. Cacheable mean that responses from the server can be stored, mean cached, and reused for later equivalent requests. This improves performance by reducing server load and network traffic. In a micro services architecture, what is the most effective way to implement API versioning for backward compatibility? यहाँ पे हमारे पास है ऑप्शन सी, कंटेंट negotiation with custom media types. Explanation: content negotiation with custom media types, for example, application slash vnd dot company dot users minus v1 plus json is most effective for microservices because it allows multiple versions to coexist, provides clear semantic meaning, and follows REST principles while maintaining backward compatibility. Which REST constraint is primarily responsible for enabling the independent evolution and replacement of both the server side business logic and the client side user interface without system wide disruption? Option C, client server architecture. Explanation: the foundational separation of concerns between the client and the server is the explicit mechanism that allows each component to evolve independently, provided the interface remain consistent. The statelessness constraint directly support the desirable non functional property of visibility in a REST system. How does the elimination of server side session state improve visibility? Option D, it makes each request self contained, allowing monitoring system to fully understand the context of a transaction without tracking prior interactions. Explanation: since every request holds all necessary context, monitoring tools can analyze requests individually, simplifying monitoring and debugging. Which of the following is not a mandatory constraint of the REST architectural style? Option C, code on demand. Code on demand is the only optional constraint in REST, allowing server to extend client functionality by transferring executable code. All other listed constraints are mandatory. In which the context of REST's uniform interface, what does the head use principle enable? Option C, client to discover and navigate resources through server provided hyperlinks. Explanation: Hatios means hypermedia as the engine of application state allows client to dynamically discover available actions and resources by following hyperlinks in server responses, reducing the need for prior knowledge of resource URIs. You are designing a RESTful API for a multi tenant e commerce platform where the tenants manage their own product and reviews. A new endpoint is needed to fetch reviews for a specific product within a tenant's scope. The platform already uses plural nouns for resources like slash tenants and slash curly braces tenant tenant ID slash products, which URI design best adheres to RESTful best practice while providing action oriented verbs. Option B. Option B is the answer. And this explanation is here. Per the document, URIs should use nouns for resources, not actions, and plural nouns for collection. Option B correctly identifies the resources as a collection of reviews under a product using a noun based path. Your team is building a RESTful API for workflow management system where users submit documents for approval. The approval process involves multiple steps like review, sign, archive, and the available actions change based on the document's current state. Clients currently hard code all possible URIs, leading to breakage when the API evolves. Question is here to achieve a mature REST implementation using Helios, what should the server response include when a client retrieves a document representation? Option B, dynamic hyperlink in the response body JSON with links array pointing to the next valid action and source, allowing clients to discover them without prior knowledge. Explanation: hypermedia as the engine of application state requires servers to provide hyperlinks in responses for discoverability, enabling clients to navigate dynamically without hard-coded URIs. This decouples the client and server as described in the uniform interface sub-constraints. Scenario: an analytical API server dashboard, data for stock market trend, frequent get requests for the same resource. For example, slash stocks slash AAPL slash trends returns slightly varying data due to real time updates. However, client experience high latency and you want to leverage cache ability without compromising that freshness. Sorry, without compromising data freshness. क्वेश्चन हमारे पास है, हाउ शुड यू configure response to balance cacheability with the need for up-to-date representation per REST principles? Option B, explicitly define responses as cacheable with short expiration time Why cache control headers and use e tag for conditional requests to validate freshness. Explanation: the cacheability constants allow responses to be marked cacheable or non cacheable explicitly. Benefits include reduced latency and server load. Combining with headers like cache control and e tag ensures controlled freshness as noted in the cacheable section cacheability section. सिनेरियो हमारे पास है इन अ पेमेंट एपीआई client use put to update transaction state, for example slash transaction slash 456 curly braces status completed. Network issues cause retries resulting in duplicate processing because the operation is not designed with idempotence in mind. Question: to make the operation idempotent while adhering to HTTP method best practice, what adjustment should you implement? Option B: ensure multiple identical put requests have the same effect by checking if the status is already completed before updating using conditional headers like if match. Explanation: put is typically idempotent, meaning multiple identical requests should have the same effect as one implementing checks. For example, via e-tags or conditions, ensure this without side effect, aligning with the idempotence and HTTP method concepts.
Like and subscribe me, friends!